result, I was trying to see the voting outcome. I couldn't find the number. I found it yesterday. 5 million people didn't go to vote compared to Biden's time because maybe they felt that the cost of going to election exceeds the benefit of going. And that's by design, such as amending the electoral rules, make sure that the ballot is really far, organize it on a Saturday so that laborers couldn't go. So all these are the things that, and Democrats, if we want to fight back, and if the Ash Center want to realize its mission on innovation and governance and the new playbook that we need to do, we need to really understand that these autocrats are really smart. And they're very innovative and they're very agile. And once we know what they're thinking inside, we should be talking gangster politics now, not Harvard politics. And once we know that, then we start to get the students to get involved and innovate and take care of this problem, because they will dismantle voter and they will win elections because of gerrymandering, because of all these things that they will do. So that's the third inflection point now, that even Democrats have ways and campaigns and communications and things like that, but there's a chance that you will lose in the election, such as the one that happened in the States last year, for example. Like Trump was very good in organizing early voting turnout in swing states, and you could see the number was much better than Harris, and even comparable to Biden's time. And that's something that keeps me awake at night.
I guess the one caution I would add to that, to the question is to say that, it's not as if people voted for authoritarianism. And that's not
voted for the price of eggs.
Yeah, they may have, there's all sorts of reasons why people vote an incumbent out of office. And in fact, I think it's like 17 out of the last 19 elections around the world in established democracies, incumbents on the left and the right have lost. Including in the U.S. Trump came in once, was voted out. Democrats came in, voted out, and so people are generally dissatisfied for lots of reasons. And I think the reason it's so, in a two-party system, if you vote the incumbent out, then the other guy's going to win. And if the other option on the table is somebody who's going to attack democratic institutions, that puts you in a very precarious position. So, so in some ways we kind of did get these threats to democracy on accident, as some So. But I think that's important because, to emphasize that point, because otherwise we give credence to this idea that there's a mandate for this kind
of
non-democracy.
For
non-democracy, because that's actually not necessarily what people voted for. And sort of analyses of how people vote. I've seen just recent studies in Europe where people vote for populist parties just because they're dissatisfied with the incumbents, not because they have authority. Not because So again, that's important because what you do. So that what it does. But I do agree with you. What that suggests is that there are underlying problems in the political system in addressing people's needs and demands and so on. And I think there is something that we don't really understand. I think most democracies in the world seem to be able to stay in power because voters are just not happy with the mainstream what's on offer. So that does require a different kind of conversation than just thinking about the authoritarian.
Great. So this next one's for you, Daniel, to kind of stage set for the next round of questions. Many authoritarian regimes do not seize power overnight, as people already talked about, but rather erode gradually. So Daniel, kind of going back to the book, thinking your thoughts since then, what do you think are 3 or 4 of the most important common patterns across countries where democracy is eroding, perhaps eventually into authoritarianism? So what are 3, 4, 5 of the main flashpoints to look for?
So I guess I'd begin with what is common among democracies that get into trouble and democracies that don't get into trouble is that somebody's elected, often in free and fair elections, as you said. So you can be elected just because you're elected in a free and fair election doesn't make you a Democrat. It doesn't give you a kind of free pass to do whatever the hell you want and then say, well, no, I was elected. So, because one has to judge what politicians do once they're elected. So that, at least that, there's lots of authoritarians, Chavez, Erdogan, Orban, who have been freely elected and then who go on to do undemocratic things. So you have to have the criteria in your head to be able to assess what they're doing in a way that could apply to any party, including your own party, so that you're not simply just sort of choosing, deciding to accuse your opponents of being authoritarian.